Aloha and welcome to your daily dose of aloha. I'm Kumu Wai, and I'm here to bring you messages of love and light from the land of aloha, Hawai'i. I'm drinking my tea tonight, and I hope you all are too, drinking something that is pono for your body and it's going to bring you light and health and healing every day. So tonight, I'm going to be doing a little something different. I've tried to upload this video a couple of times and proves my point that tonight is an ole night. O-L-E in Hawaiian is ole, which means that it's not going to happen. So if someone asks you, a Hawaiian person, well, would you like to go to the store? And the person doesn't want to go, they'll say, a-ole. So, a-ole. No. So, there are 4 nights in the ole moon phase in the Hawaiian Moon Calendar. And we're going to read about them in a little bit from a very special book called Ano Lani Ano Honua, A Heavenly Nature and Earthly Nature. Spiritual Guide to the Hawaiian Lunar Calendar by Kahuwendo Kalani Kapuai Nui Silva. And this is a very special book. Here you go. And I am very happy to share it with you. There's a lot of knowledge in here about the moon, Mahina. Okay, in Hawaiian we say Mahina. And Mahina is the mother of creation, of the human and of creation. And we have very strong motherly figures in the Hawaiian history. I wouldn't say myth, I would say history. And Mahina, Hina, the goddess Hina is one of them. So the ole nights are nights that are not very auspicious, as the book says. So I have had trouble uploading this video, and it proves my point, like I said, because these nights are nights that things are just not going to get done for most people. Okay, so let's read what the book has to say. We're in the midpoint between the new moon and the full moon, and that is called ole. So ole are these moons. Okay, let me see. So we went from the new moon, which is Muku, M-U-K-U, Muku, and that moon is the new moon when the moon does not appear in the sky at night. Okay? It's still there. It's always there, but we can't see it ourselves. Alright? So this is the ole moons. I don't know if you can read that well. And the ole moons are moons that are halfway between light and dark. And according to tradition, the light and the dark is not bad. One is po, that's the dark, and one is la, that's the light. Malamalama is light. So day is la and night is po. So halfway through the lunar calendar, between the dark, the po, the muku, the moon that is dark, and the hoku, that is light. That's the fullest moon. And so we're in that 4 moon phase of that moon cycle right now, that lunar Hawaiian moon cycle. Everybody goes through the same moon cycle, but here in Hawaii, this is what we call it. Okay? So tonight is April 29th, 2020, and so we're going into the ole phases now. You'll also find that the ole phases are phases of the moon where you feel a little bit more tired, fatigued, and maybe the weather is dreary as well, or maybe it's not. Maybe it's calm and peaceful. But in many places there'll be an uptick of wind and clouds, and it'll be one of those times that you want to stay indoors. So April 29th to about March 2nd, May 2nd, April 29th to about May 2nd, 3rd, in this time frame, we're all going to be experiencing something similar. And so let's see what in the Hawaiian tradition this moon represents. Okay, so ia kako ina ole. Here we are in the ole nights. Kamea no kauhane, the spiritual significance. Uhane, spiritual. Ole kukahi, ole kulua, and ole kukolu, and ole pau are the names of the 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th days of the lunar month. They numerically identify each of the ole moons and the sequential order of their appearance in the night skies. The ole nights were associated with the ho'onui anahulu waxing, getting bigger, phases of the new moon, and equated with the male spiritual energy. The first ole kukahi night marked the ending of the first hapaha quarter of the calendar month. This astral division usually took place sometime between the occurrence of the first ole kukahi and the second ole kulua phases of a particular month. So there is 2 times in the month that we have these ole days. Okay, so right now we're in the waxing part, which are about 4 phases, and when they are waning, they look a little like this. And so during these times, the Hawaiians believed that these were very quiet times for us to be indoors and introspective. So let's read on. Ole translates as not or nothingness, and therefore the 4 ole moons were regarded as a non-productive and spiritually insignificant period in the old Hawaiian calendar. Representing a time of astrological transition and change, the ole phases of the moon were perceived by the kahuna, the spiritual guides, as an inauspicious or not too special day for performing any important spiritual work. However, the ole nights did provide ancient Hawaiian kahuna, the healers, with a much needed time of respite from the rigors of the religious responsibilities that were required during the previous Ku-kapu lunar series. As their Hawaiian name implies, the ole nights were simply a time for doing nothing, kind of like a weekend in the middle of the moon calendar. Because ancient Hawaiians, the people of ancient Hawaii, counted the days by the nights. So we didn't look at the sun. Well, they didn't look at the sun and say, well, it's Monday, Tuesday. They counted it according to the moon calendar, because the moon is different every night. And they planted and they fished and they conducted their lives according to these moon phases. Okay, it is very, very productive. Okay, so let's read on. What are these days good for? Okay, so these days are good for. The ole moons provided a brief opportunity to ho'omaha iki, that is to pause, from the structured routines of early Hawaiian life. Kahuna used this time primarily for personal introspection, individual self-assessment, and contemplating their oneness with the divine order of the universe. It was considered a very good day for seeking spiritual knowledge, wisdom, and personal enlightenment through prayer. The Ole nights were especially conducive to performing transcendental meditative techniques such as the kahuna ha breathing techniques to relax the body, empower the mind, and to achieve a holistic state of spiritual inner peace the Hawaiians call pono maoli. Okay? So the Ole nights, all four of them, in the time between the new moon and the full moon, the halfway point is a time for introspection, a time for rest, a time for meditation, enlightenment, and weeding. So not planting, but weeding. So what we put into our minds, if it's not pono, if it's not good for us, we need to weed them out. We need to concentrate on the thoughts that bring us good energy. And so the thoughts that bring us bad energy, like jealousy and anger and spite and gossip and rumors and lies and greed and selfishness. See, all these things, we just clutter up our mind with. Those are weeds. So during this Ole time, because the weather is not so good for doing some outdoor activities, maybe it's good for us to be indoors for a little while and to think about our lives and our priorities, and to see what weeds we can get out of our mind. And then we can pull it out, and we can hemu oya, we can brush it off, because the more you water these weeds, these bad negative thoughts, the more they'll grow. But if you pluck them out and say, no, I refuse to think you anymore, weed of jealousy, weed of selfishness, weed of arrogance, weed of greed, weed of anything that you think is just negative for you, weed of gluttony. Maybe you just like to have lots of things. Okay, so these are the weeds that we're going to be taking out during this time of the month, so that we can have a garden within our minds and our bodies and spirits that is pono, maoli, that is good and balanced between the mind, the body, and the spirit. Okay? So weeding. And then of course weeding in the real sense in our gardens is a good time to do that. Okay? Whenever the weather is overcast, it's a good time to weed, because that means that it's not as hot. You can go outside and the weeds are more pliable, and because they have a little bit of moisture in the ground, hopefully from rain in the nighttime or whenever, and so you can pull them out easier. Okay, and it's also a really good time for our minds to be at rest, so that when they're at rest, we can pull those weeds out, because there will be a time for us to plant. And if our mind is cluttered with negative things, where are we going to have the space to plant? And this is what the Ole Moon is all about. Cycle, right? The lunar cycle is all about planting and weeding and clearing and planting and weeding and harvesting and clearing, and all these activities that we do that create harmony in our lives and health. So we know what it's good for these days: resting, meditate, and I hope that you don't feel guilty about that, because sometimes we need a break. You know, a lot of us work through the weekends and we don't get enough rest, and we think there are just no days that we can rest. I tell you what, a lot of that has to do with guilt. You're not here to solve the world's problems. If somebody over there is taking care of a situation and you feel left out, don't think that you need to go and do those things. You know, there's 1,000,001 causes in the world, but you need to focus on one or two and make that your cause. There's so much out there, but we need to make sure that we're putting our energy where it's most valuable. Okay? So that's part of the introspection of the Ole Moon. Alright. So now let's go on to, excuse me, drink some tea. I'm drinking turmeric tea, which is a lemon, not lemon, which is called olena in Hawaiian, turmeric. And it also has some uhaloa, which is, gosh, I don't even know the Latin name for uhaloa, but it's a very effective tea to drink when you have respiratory ailments. And I have this tea if anybody's interested. So if you want, you can email me. The information is below. And I'll send you some Hawaiian tea. Anyways, so for the next few nights, it's not really good in the Hawaiian tradition to it was traditionally considered as inauspicious or even unlucky. Like, I haven't been able to upload those other videos that I made. This is the third video, so hopefully this one works. So the Ole nights were inauspicious, which is not very special, excuse me, or unlucky. These nights were not perceived, excuse me, that was a big cough. I haven't been feeling well the past few days, but it's just the season. Because I have allergies, I know it's nothing worse than that. It's every year I go through this during this time of year, April, May. So, not to worry. Anyway, so these nights were not perceived as favorable for any type of meaningful spiritual activity. During this lunar period, kahuna, which are the healers and the spirit guides of the Hawaiian people, usually refrained from practicing traditional divination techniques, performing formal ceremonies, rituals, or presiding over sacred religious rites. They customarily waited until after the passing of the Ole nights before beginning any meaningful spiritual work or initiating a physical healing process. Characterized by rough seas, Ole days were also not good for fishing, planting, and most other types of mundane work or activities. So, the Ole nights. If you're having a hard time in these few nights that we're going through this halfway point, it's not just you. And I know that there are other planets out there besides the moon that influence us, but the moon influences us the most. It controls the tides. It controls our very existence here on Earth, because otherwise we'd fall off the Earth. This magnetic pull, it's just enough to keep us all right here on this level. So we have a lot to learn about the moon and how it affects us. It's not just something that we look at in the sky. We are deeply connected energetically to the moon. So this is what the Hawaiians understood, and this is what we understood. We do understand now, but not enough people get it, or even understand it, or believe it. So, it's not good for luck, or rituals, healing, or planting. Only nights are good for weeding, not reading, maybe reading, but it's good to learn during these nights, you know. It's good to you know, when you pray about things, it's good to learn. And I did a video on domestic violence just prior to this video a few nights ago, and I felt a lot of heaviness from that message. As of today, I don't think anybody has even viewed it on domestic violence, but I gave a talk on domestic violence during a pandemic because I had a message to give, and I'm not sure who's going to hear that and when they're going to hear it, but it's a part one of a series that I'm going to do on domestic violence and what we can do to help ourselves and each other while we go through not only the violence of others towards us, whether it be a spouse or just someone in your family, but it's something that needs to be examined on more than just one level. I'm not going to give advice. I'm not well, I will tell you what works for me. How's that? And then I'll share with you what I think would be good for you, but it's my professional advice as a teacher and as a person who has been through it. So maybe I don't have a PhD in psychology, but I sure have a PhD in domestic violence, I tell you that. I know a lot about it, I've been through it, and I want to help someone else to go through it. And there's a lot of stories in the Hawaiian history that deal with domestic violence, and even a story about the moon and how Hina lives in the moon because of domestic violence. So I want you all to know that through these early days and all these quarantine nights, that this is a really good time to take stock of ourselves, to garner our strength, to pull the weeds out that others have planted or we have planted. Maybe others have planted in your mind that you're not good enough, that you're not smart, that everything you say is wrong, or everything you do is wrong, or I shouldn't be watching these videos, what are they good for? You know, some people just need somebody to listen to or to talk to or to feel like they know. And that's why I want to post these videos. So what does that have to do with the moon? Well, it's a very introspective time. And so I have not put any music on this video. I'm not going to make it fancy. I'm just here to share about the moon. And I hope that you have gathered some kind of information and maybe even some inspiration by hearing what I have to say. And don't feel guilty about resting during these few days. The weather's not going to be great. Maybe in some places it will be, but in most places the wind will pick up and the weather will not be too good. So it's a good time to stay at home, and then for the weekend, you know, pop back out. May will come and it will be a beautiful month. But I would like to continue to have these talk stories with you, and so I hope you will join me again soon, and enjoy your ole nights and your beautiful days, because even the cloudy days can be beautiful, because as we say in Hawaii, no rain, no rainbows. You can't have the good without the bad. You can't have the sun without the rain. Everything is needed. Everything is important. And we all have a good side and a bad side. We also even have a masculine side and a feminine side, just like the moon has a dark side and a light side. And right now, they're almost half. And that creates tension, doesn't it? So, when we are going through the next few days, up until the first few days of May 2020, today is April 29th, 2020, you will see that some things may not work out, or the things that you start you just can't finish. Maybe you even lose things. And the more you try, the more it doesn't work. Just rest. If anything happens, ever even, that you feel that is just too much for you, this is something that can remind you that everybody deserves a time of rest. Doesn't matter what the moon or the day. If you need rest, you need rest. Do not feel guilty. Don't feel like the world's going to go on without you, that fear of missing out is just a fantasy. You're not going to miss anything. And you know, even if we do miss out on some fun things, everybody else is going to be talking about it and we are resting. Whatever you're resting from, it's important because your body's telling you, or your mind, or your spirit is telling you, please rest. It's a signal. And to listen to it, to ho'olohe, to listen, it's a very important part of growth. If you don't listen to your body, you don't listen to your spirit, and you just lead with the mind, you'll get in big trouble. Trust me. So, let's be pono maoli, balanced in mind, body, and spirit, and from our past, present, and future. Let everything that comes into our bodies from Mauka to Makai, from the top of our heads to the bottom of our shoes, from our bottom of our feet, we know that everything that comes down from the mountain and up into the Makai. So if there's bad on the mountain, pollution and everything, it's going to end up down the mountain, just like our bodies. So Mauka to Makai. So that's the best way to be pono, is to make sure that we're spending enough time in meditation and rest, and then we can be more productive again when this time passes. Okay? So I hope that you all will get some rest. I'm going to try my best to upload this video, so if you're watching it, I was successful. Okay, well, this has been Kumu Wai, and I'm here with your daily dose of Aloha on the Aloha Consultants channel. Tonight was your nightly reading of the Hawaiian Moon Calendar in the phase of Ole, April 29th, 2020. Have a good evening wherever you are and whatever day this is for you when you watch this. And I wish you all well. Aloha a hui ho until we meet again. This is Kumu Wai.